Let's talk about the movie Hokum, which I had the opportunity to watch at South by Southwest. I have a ton of reviews I still need to do for South by Southwest, and then there's a lot of movies I want to watch already. Like, I haven't even watched Angel's Egg, which is on HBO, and I've been wanting to watch that, so definitely a lot of catching up. But let's talk about Hokum. This is a new film directed by Damian McCarthy, who did the film Oddity, which I really loved. So I was going into this one super pumped and excited. It was at the State Theater in Austin, which I was happy with that because it was in the Paramount. The Paramount's a little bit too loud sometimes, especially with horror movies. Everybody wants to have their reaction video going on there. Like, they think they're in a reaction video, I think. And I really did love that this was Damian McCarthy with Adam Scott, because I think Adam Scott is such a tremendous actor, and I was pumped. Especially considering that Oddity was such an incredible horror film, in my opinion, that came with a really fresh take on horror, right? I feel like we had gotten to a point where horror was kind of feeling like it needed to be a certain way. And then Oddity came back and made the spooky vibes come back to life that we had seen in many horror films from, like, let's say the 70s, 60s vibes. It gave kind of that vibe right there, but it still had a freshness to it that felt like it was coming out today as well. So I think McCarthy did an incredible job with Oddity. So Hokum, what were we going to expect? Well, from the trailer alone, if you've seen it, I would advise you not to see that trailer if you haven't, because I think there's a lot in it that kind of gives away some very intense and special moments in the film. So don't watch that trailer if you haven't. If you have already, you'll be okay. There's still some moments there that are going to get you. But this trailer really was a trailer that captivated me. It was very eerie, it was creepy and unsettling in the best way possible. You basically follow the character here that Adam Scott's playing of who is this author who goes back to the hotel where his parents spent their honeymoon to spread their ashes. He is there to pretty much give them back to a place where they felt intense happiness. But he soon finds out that there's a lot more going on in this hotel, and it's not good. It's not good at all. And he starts getting into these hijinks, I would say, and then things just start going bad. There is a force here that is going to keep him, and it's not a good one at all. So we see that things dive into a very dark place pretty quick. And I was really enjoying, I think, how this film was going at the beginning. It was very unsettling. There was a lot of atmosphere. There is a lot of atmosphere throughout itself. And it really is a movie that sucks you in, and it keeps you in this dark corner, in this dark place. It's very claustrophobic as well, which I really did like, when a film makes you feel contained and you're just like, I don't know where to look or move because I'm scared of what's to come. I think McCarthy did a good job there. But I think that where this film kind of like faults itself and kind of stumbles is the middle of the film, where there is just a jump scare galore for some reason. And, you know, I understand jump scares are going to be in every horror film. It's a thing. It's gonna make you jump, right? And I appreciate a good jump scare when it's a jump scare that feels valid and that there is a sort of like reasoning behind it as well. Like, I know the cat jumping, the bird appearing and things like that are classic jump scares, and we'll see them all the time in every horror film. But sometimes you want that jump scare where it's like, oh, there's a legit danger here and it's continuing even after the jump scare, right? Because the jump scare to me is like, oh, the aha moment where we just laugh all together because we all jumped and it's fun, right? And it kind of alleviates tension until we get to the next one. But I feel like in this film, there is a segment in particular in the middle where it just goes and goes and goes, and the jump scare just feels kind of cheap. And that was my only problem with the film in itself, is these cheap feelings that it gives when you have these jump scares that don't have weight to them. And I was very disappointed in that aspect, because I don't think Oddity really had that. I don't know if it's because McCarthy's working with a bigger studio and all of that now, and bigger studios usually demand these more like rigid things in their films because they sort of do marketing and things like that, where they think just because a group of people said it at one point, then everybody wants that. But hey, that's just my opinion right there. So I don't know what it was here, but that those moments didn't really like make this film feel much scarier. I think the first act and the third act are really where it's at, because there are some moments of dread throughout those like acts where you're just like in your seat, you're just like trying to get away from the screen, and that's when the movie's really strong. Like, this is a very frightening film. I think it has some imagery, it has some moments that really build so well, and you're just like, yes, this is exactly what I want from a horror film. But the interesting aspect of this movie is that it also has the cliches and everything that you want to get away from horror as well in that middle act, which it's just like what it is, right? I know like sometimes studios and directors, when they work together, it can kind of be conflicting, as opposed to if McCarthy went and made this independently and then the studio bought it, like with Talk to Me or with The Undertone and things like that. It's things where like the studio really doesn't change much, unless it's The Undertone where they change a couple of things there. But I do think that Hokum still is a very great film. I think that Adam Scott is an interesting character here. He has this very hard edge to him, and I was wondering if they were trying to soften it as the film went, but I just couldn't find myself really feeling for his character. Like, he is a great actor and everything. He plays this character to a T. This is like an asshole author, but I feel like there were moments where it wants you to feel, and they get to points where it starts to kind of start working, but then ultimately it starts falling and tumbling, and it's just not as strong as I think they wanted those feelings and these emotional parts to be. And I don't know if it's because he just played this character too much like an asshole, where there's like no redeeming, like, yes, you feel bad for him, but you don't hit that sentimental part as hard. And I think that that was the problem with the ending, because the ending is feeling like it's supposed to be a crescendo of this character changing and being all of these things. And then ultimately, when that very pivotal moment of emotion it's supposed to hit, I was just sitting there like, I don't feel it. But I do think McCarthy is great at building atmosphere. I think he does an amazing job at presenting this very horrifying, frightening imagery throughout his films that really linger with you. There's some moments in it where they showcase something, and I'm still thinking about it today, even though I watched this movie like a week ago almost, and it was just a very intense, scare, but it's all kind of like taken down by those scares that were feeling cheap and hollow. So I don't know where I really stand with Hokum. I still would say if you loved Oddity, I would watch this in theaters. If you like the Conjuring vibe movies, this is definitely feeling like if Damian McCarthy did Oddity and added a bit of Conjuring vibes to it, where it kind of feels like a horror blockbuster vibe. I don't know if that makes sense. I could definitely see McCarthy is leaning more towards that area now, but I do hope he goes back to making more contained stories. Even though this is contained, it is very singular. It is a one location and all of that. It still felt like very different from Oddity in a way. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I love Oddity. I like Hokum. I would want to give it a rewatch. I'm not sure if it's just because the theater I was in, people wanted to be funny at times. You know, people just scream loud after they hear somebody have, I guess you could say, a genuine scream, and everybody's just trying to top themselves. It felt like that. So I don't know if it's the audience I watched it with or what, but I would definitely want to give Hokum another chance. I think there is a lot here. There are some very intense frights that I really enjoyed. I think McCarthy also is brilliant with the character designs he gives to a lot of these, like, quote unquote monsters. And I would be excited to see what he does next for sure. Like, I don't think Oddity is his last great film either. I think that he has a bright future ahead of him, and I think Hokum is an interesting direction to go with. I do hope he tones it back down and finds a middle ground between Oddity and Hokum, because I think that's going to be the sweet spot right there. But yeah, this movie was great. I thought that the character Adam Scott played was brilliant. The other actors in here do get some time to shine, but not as much as Adam Scott. This is truly his movie. He is like the person we're with throughout the whole time. And, you know, it's an interesting movie. I'm very curious to see what people will think about it, because it does have some great scares. It does have some frightening moments. It is an interesting story as well. But I think that the movie kind of trips on itself when it tries to oversimplify some things, and then also when it just relies on these cheap jump scares. So we'll see what happens once it releases in May. But overall, like I said, if you loved Oddity, see this in the theater. If you want a good scare, see this in the theater. If you like jump scares for some reason, see it in the theater. If you weren't a fan of Oddity, you might be a fan of this one, because I think it kind of is more like a quote unquote traditional type of horror film that we're used to, especially like a summer horror and all of that. So I see why it's coming out in the summer. I think it's definitely a lot of fun, but I think that Oddity kind of put me in a place where I was thinking this was going to go more in that direction, but it went in another direction. Totally fine, but we'll see. Anyways, let me know your thoughts and opinions on Hokum, if you enjoyed it or not. Like I said, I did enjoy it. I just wish it didn't rely so much on jump scares and oversimplification, where it's kind of holding your hand. That's how it felt at times to me. But overall, still a solid movie, solid horror. Great way to start the summer, I think, because this comes out in May. So I'm excited to see what people think, and I cannot wait to see what Damian McCarthy does next. He is an exciting filmmaker, so we'll see. As always, I'll see you all next time. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. 50,000 subscribers is the goal. I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.